Hello, welcome to the Alone Show. I'm your host, John Malone. In this episode, no regulars, because reasons, as always. As for our guest, she's from Arlington, Texas. She is expert witness for insurance court cases. Interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Lezlee Yenberg.
Thank you. Oh, and you almost got the Swedish pronunciation of my last name, so that's perfect.
Yes, interesting.
Yes.
So how's life?
Well, life is grand. In fact, when I first got onto your podcast to do an interview, I was very torn between which topic I wanted to talk about or to share with your audience. So, good things are going on.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
So, what inspired you to go on the path that you're currently on right now?
Well, I took the pathway to become an expert witness because I had been an insurance agent, owned my own insurance agencies for approximately 20 years. I had a long history in the commercial real estate industry in the United States, and so when I began to look at my exit strategy to sell my agencies, there was a good friend of mine that brought up he was doing expert witnessing for court cases and said this would be a wonderful transition for you. I think you should look into it. So I began my studies and working on designations, and as I sold my agency, be, began to open up my expert witness practice. It's been going great. I love it. It's a lot of fun, a little tense, dealing with conflict, but I really enjoy it. And during all this, also, I wrote a book about DNA surprises, so it gives me a little bit of flexibility to promote my book, do book signings, and then at the same time, I do my expert witnessing. So it's a combination of life right now.
Ah, all right then. And it also says that you have a history of your uncle who was also a songwriter.
Yes, that was my other topic. So because when I was looking at your topics and what you cover, that was originally the reason that I thought this will be a really interesting topic, I think, for people. But my great uncle wrote a very famous song called Silver Threads and Golden Needles. It's been it's been around for many years. It's been recut several times. There's a young lady in California that actually has a blog that she dissects that song over and over and over as many from the all the different versions of that song. But we also have about 200 songs on contract with BMI and Sony. That it's a difficult world to get broken back to break into to determine opportunities. But that's kind of where we are with it. We want to get that song recut, and we have a lot of other songs that we're trying to get into some hands of some singers and some agents.
Nice, very good.
Yes.
Yeah, is there any artists that you would like to collaborate with at some point?
Well, I mean, I think, my mind goes to maybe Miranda Lambert. Think that the song fits. The song was originally made famous by Linda Ronstadt. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her name, but there was a lady named Wanda Jackson many years ago that recorded it early on, and then when in the probably the 70s, I believe Linda Ronstadt sang it, and is actually what shot the song up to fame. It's almost I think there have been men that have sang the song, and I don't think that's a problem at all. But I think tends to, well, man wrote it, so I guess it could be written, could be sung by either gender. So it's but she's always who comes first to my mind. But it would be great to maybe have a Jason Aldean, somebody in the country world. But it's not necessarily a country song. It really could be rewritten a little bit and be a song for another genre.
Ah, all right then. What could you give a 14-minute presentation on without any preparation?
What could I do a presentation on? Oh my
Yes.
goodness. Marketing and networking, probably. I do a lot on getting published and the pros and cons as an expert witness to get published. That's always a little bit of a touchy subject with expert witnesses. But those are two topics that I could do a 15-minute presentation with no preparation. What about
Nice.
you?
Well, the thing is, I'm a I'm this kind of person that just throws something on the wall and just goes with it. So I can go on about the functioning of society, the power structures, and how we have different services that we rely on. How do we become independent from external third-party sources? And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I go
Okay.
much deeper into other topics, and it all deserves its own segment.
Right. Well, yeah. And so, do you? So that's more your favorite topics, our culture and where we're going with it, and what's happening today.
Yes, absolutely.
I do some reviews on Book Talk. And one of the books that I just reviewed, I haven't posted it yet, is on from a woman named Laura Ingram, and she wrote a song called "For Thee I Zing," and it's a little bit of what you're talking about, somewhat of our culture and where we're going, and well, we'll just say some of it, the insanity of what's going on in our countries today. It's a good book.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, so can is it okay if we talk about my book about the DNA surprises?
Yeah, sounds
'Cause
great.
that's a hot topic today, and actually I have a nice following in New Zealand, Australia, Canada. But the book it's called If You Only Knew: Navigating DNA Surprises and the NPE World. And everybody first says, what is an NPE? And an NPE is a not parent expected. That is, it follows a gamut of people, the adoptees, sperm donor conceived people, people like myself that found out my father wasn't my father when I was 58, a long journey, and those people that are also egg donor conceived and surrogates. There's a whole group of almost a community of people that are having these surprises due to the DNA testing and I will say the progress of that technology that has occurred in the last few years. It's just exploding. So I took my situation and wrote a book to help other people to navigate through the surprises and what it does to our lives, and the turmoil, but also getting through it. It's doing very well, and I'm enjoying it. I'm doing many. I've done several conferences and do a lot of speaking for book clubs, and that's one of the fun things that I enjoy doing is the book clubs and being able to guide folks through some of the questions and how it's affecting our world.
Yes, absolutely. And what are the updates in regards to this book that you're writing?
The updates as far as what will happen next, or
Yes.
where? Yes.
Where's it gonna go from there?
Well, I think there's many options. If I were to write another book, a sequel of sorts to the topic, it would be a book of true stories. People that have dealt with it, are dealing with it, and it's one of those topics that I probably would also address the things not to say to somebody that's going through that, or to say to help them go through it. It's a very the situation deals with a lot of rejection. There's many families that don't want to even know the person that has discovered their biological family and their lineage. For me, I have two half sisters, and I have two cousins, first cousins, and that live directly in my area, along with three nephews and a niece. And all but my niece have rejected to meet me. So there's a lot of rejection that comes along with it. So I think if I were to ever really look at a sequel, it would be, well, the book talks a little bit about handling the rejection, but I think I would be more of an educational book as far as trying to help society understand what this is looking like and what it actually feels like for those that are going through it. I can't tell you how many stories that I do the advocacy work, and how many stories I hear and the hurt when people go out to meet their biological family that they've discovered, and these people just turning them away. They don't want to have anything to do with them. My focus is on, it's we are a product of a situation. We didn't create the situation. We weren't here. Two people had consensual sex or non-consensual sex. We're the byproduct of that situation occurring. And that is, I think there's in our society there's a lot, well, there's a lot of questioning in it, and they don't understand it. But I think there's a lot to learn about love, and don't, not to sound, crazy fun, mushy, but there's a lot to learn about acceptance and diversity, and we're dealing with that in our world already. This community is just another community that needs acceptance and inclusiveness. And I sometimes I refer to us as the new minority. That would probably be the title of my next book, The New Minority, if I had to if I had to title it right now. But that's a long answer to your question, but I think that's where this DNA crazy surprises this phenomenon. I mean, it's going across. It is truly going across the world because we're all having these discoveries. I just think it would be a situation where I would like to help people understand where they can either be accepting and help somebody through it, or they can cause more pain, and that's not a good thing.
Yes, that is so true. Do you have any plans on writing another book at some point?
I think I've really leaned toward. I'll still follow down this not parent expected, the DNA surprises world. But if I were to look at doing another book, it would be about my great uncle and the music industry of these, more of the history of it. And for him, he was, my title right now, my working title would be The Unsung Heroes. There's so many people that write the music that they're not ever known about, and they're the sort of the people behind the scenes. My great uncle was an alcoholic. He dealt with, I'm sure, mental illness. I found, I have a lot of his writings. I have all of his notebooks. I have all of his old vinyls, the vinyls that he wrote. So I would probably go back in time and write about those type of people and the understanding. No one understood mental illness or really even alcoholism back then. They were just a bad seed, and they were a problem, and there was nothing to help them. So I think going back in the time of history of what would the world have looked like if we had understood and accepted psychiatric help and understood where people were in the 1940s and 50s, rather than hiding them away and acting like they were just a little crazy. That whole genre also is linked to a group called the Rockabillys, and the Rockabillys came out of Texas. They were a group of people, a group but mainly men, that they would gather in towns like Mineola, Texas, some small little towns, and they would gather and they would just have, they'd write and drink and get together. Then, so the famous singer that came from that group, the Rockabillys, and his name was Jim Reeves. I would not write a book about Jim Reeves. There's been so many already written, but he does have a large following, and he also has a fan book group, a fan club that is always researching about his background and his past and how he got started. And in fact, I have a couple of people that from Amsterdam that reached out to me, from England. I did help them write those books by gathering information on my uncle, because he was a little minor part of that entire rockabilly movement. And Elvis Presley was actually one of the people that they tried to bring his sound and what he was all about in with this, with kind of combining the blues, rock, and a little bit of country. That would be very interesting to me to just see how those all combined, and be able to do some research on it and share that in a book. And just I think the sadness of people living in a tough world, and no one really understanding that. Again, I go back to the mental health. I mean, I know that's a very difficult thing for people, but I think we've come a long way in accepting mental issues and mental health issues, and addressing those, and taking that shame away from being in that situation.
Yes, indeed. If someone wrote a book about you, what do you think its title would be?
Oh Lord, I would hope that The title would maybe be, well, I would hope that it would be something that I tried to help change situations. I've always fought for the underdog. I got myself into a lot of trouble in school standing up for people that I felt were being mistreated. I tend to have that same personality today. So maybe the title of my book would be defending the underdog. I seem to get myself caught in those situations quite a bit of kindness. I try to help people through love. I'm certainly I'm a spitfire. I know that. I can be a little outspoken, or a lot outspoken, as some people would say, but if there is one thing I hope that stands for me, is that I don't like to see people mistreated. I don't think I'm 60 years old. I don't think that characteristic is going to change anytime soon.
Yeah, of course.
What about
Would you
you?
rather?
What would your book title? What would be the title of the book about you?
Well, I think the title of my book would be A World Like No Other, because I'm out of this world.
Because you're out of this world, a world like no other, because you're out of this world.
Yes, exactly.
That's a good title. So what would one of the chapters look like?
Well, firstly, it has to be a chapter about the moment I was brought into this world, and then the next chapter will start into primary, elementary school, and then eventually get into high school. Then the next chapter is the rough reality of college, and then the next chapter is trying to get a degree with so little money, and
Yes,
then
been
and
there.
then the next chapter is getting into my professional career, and yeah, that's where I am today, and there's so more chapters yet to happen.
Hopefully so, right?
Oh
And
yes,
so when I know that some of this has been like the producers. I mean, are you in the entertainment world in general? Is that primarily what you do? Start 'em
yes,
out. Okay, so that's I'm doing a lot of classes. One organization is called Story Rocket, where you build your story on your well, it's your page online of, if you've written a book and you're trying to find a producer, I guess is the best way to say it. They do some classes to try, and that's it. That's like the music industry, right? I mean, it's a very difficult, I find it difficult to learn a little bit about where that world is going right now. And I know that it's changed so much, especially since when my great uncle was writing. I mean, it's crazy. The contracts are handwritten. That big shift from the way that it used to be to now. I think that would be an interesting way to be able to help people in a good way, to be able to know how to connect and contact and how to act when they're trying to find an agent or a producer is interesting to me.
yes, of course.
Yeah. So, but there's a lot of scammers out. There's a lot of scammy type organizations out there. So I do some work with the Writers League of Texas, and there's always these different organizations that are telling you they can teach you all these things, and yet when you sign up to do them, many people find that they sign up, they pay, and then there's nobody really there to help through the steps. So I think it's an interesting byproduct of all of well, every, social media, wanting to get on social media, and people want to do that and they're willing to pay, but there's a lot of organizations that are out there that are taking advantage of people, and they pay and then they don't get the help that they need. So I think that's, to me, that's a different, almost a business or a profit center of somebody really honest that could help a lot of people. But it's also, I think that's a very difficult business to get into. It's just, some people do, and how do they get in the back door to get there? Interesting topic for me.
Yes, of course. Would you, if you could live anywhere in the world, where would that be?
I think, well, I have a couple of choices. It would be France, or southern France. The movie Mamma Mia probably makes me want to go to Greece, especially since I've dealt with the who's your father, who's your daddy situation in my life. So Greece might be the other. I'm heading to Portugal this year for so that might be on my bucket list as well. But my first answer, I think my first mental answer to that would be somewhere in France. And I naively go back to the movie. What is the movie? Under the Tuscan Sun, where she gets the house and she rebuilds the house and makes it look so romantic. I know that that sounds fun, but there's a little bit of me that would like to buy a home in France and remodel it and just reconstruct and live there. I think of maybe live 6 months in France and 6 months in Greece, possibly, if I could do that. I find the French to be very kind. I've traveled there many times. People in the United States always give the French a bad name. I don't look at it that way, but I don't know. Other maybe Tahiti. Where would you live?
Well, I don't have a specific preference, but I do have a general one where I want to live somewhere that's warm and the sun is shining year round. Yeah,
Yeah. So and the you can maybe Cabo, Mexico, it's sunny all the time, but man, it gets pretty hot. I mean, you could live in Texas and it's very, very hot. So that's but I'm with you too. I think it'd be near the water. I love the mountains, just got home from the mountains, but I think I really lean toward the more ocean and water side. I think I would want to be able to just to hear the waves and see water for as far as I could see would be nice final retirement spot perhaps, and a great place to write to do that.
yes,
Yes.
absolutely. Mmm, delicious too.
Yes, it is. It is. Escargot all day, mussels, those delicious foods too. So where do you live?
So I currently live in Manchester.
Manchester.
Hmm.
Okay. And you've been there all your life?
Yes, I was born, raised, and lived here my whole life.
Really, that's the same for me. I'm a seventh generation Texan. And
Nice.
yes. So and as you can I'm surely tell by my accent, but I've lived in the same area as well and went to university here, so it's I think about moving other places and doing being somewhere else, but so oftentimes I think about that my support system is here. My family's mainly mostly deceased, but my older relatives, but my support system of my friends are really my family, and so it would be hard to leave them. But I think that life is very short, right? So you have if you want to see the world, you have to step out and go do it. But I think that would be fun.
Yeah, of course.
So is it cool? Is it cool where you are right now? Are the temperatures cool?
Yeah, the temperature's decent. It's mostly cloudy. At times it does rain. It has an infamous reputation for the amount of times it rains, but of course
Yes.
it's all right, I guess, compared to most parts of the UK.
But it doesn't rain all the time, right?
No, 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 of course not. It doesn't rain, but it is mostly cloudy.
Okay. Okay. Yes, I think you get a bad rap for it raining. We watch so many movies that it seems it's always raining, and it's like many places. It gets people don't understand truly what it's really like until they go there.
Yeah,
Yep.
of course.
Yes.
Would you rather speak all languages or talk to animals?
Speak all languages. That one's yeah. No, I'm not sure I want to know what animals have to say about us, but I think I would love to know all languages. I think that would be an amazing talent. I barely can get my French words working. I took German for 3 years, lived in Constance, Germany, went to college there, and it's like if you don't use it, you lose it. So it's never been I've never been very uh, fluent in a language, but I think that would be wonderful. Which would you do? Animals or languages?
I would like to speak multiple languages.
Yes, I think that would be nice. Rosetta Stone is very glad to hear us say that, I'm sure. Yes.
If your mind was an island, what would it look like?
Weather-wise, probably a big tsunami all the time, but I would like for it to look very calm and maybe like Cayman Islands, perhaps. I have to think of an island. I don't know what my island would really look like, but I think there would be a lot going on with the vegetation, the growth, and the weather if my mind were an island, because it's always moving and going and thinking of new ideas and creating. I think it would be fast paced wherever that island is.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course. What takes a lot of time to master, but is definitely worth it?
Well, those languages we were speaking about, I think takes a long time. I think patience. I think learning patience and is that's a lifelong task for many people. For me, I think as well. I think it's more for me. It's more something. It's more of a a task of self discipline, and self discipline is something that has to be practiced. Consistently, and to do something with the energy that we have. So that's that's how I would answer that question. I think there's things to learn, like the languages we talked about, but there's also within us internally what we need to practice and takes a long there are many things that I think take a long time to master in our own minds and our own bodies and our own selves. So I would love to continue to master my mind, I think to continue to be self-disciplined and motivated.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And you?
Yeah,
What would you how would you answer that question?
pressure is on. Well, I'd say my island would be somewhat tropical,
Okay.
as I would like it. But of course, it's surrounded by other islands, so if I want to, I could just go hop from one to the other,
Okay.
and there's a different vibe to it. Like, it's not the same, there's variety, and I like that.
Right. That's good. Yes, rather than my mind was going to just sitting one little island, I think the island hopping they always say people that just live on an island can get a little crazy too. So you need to be able to get a different viewpoint. So that's enough.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. What is the best way to start the morning?
Sitting outside with it raining this morning and in my own quiet with a cup of coffee. That's the best way to start the morning. Reading my devotionals and meditating. That's the best way for me to get my brain in order to start my day.
Sweet.
Yes, it's nice.
Oh yeah. What would you do if you found out you won the lottery?
I would keep some money back to donate to organizations to help them. Part of the money would be put into the bank to be liquid, to be able to get to it, and the rest I would invest. And then, depending on how much money it was, I would probably go buy that house in France and remodel it.
Hmm.
I think the
All right
first
then.
answer to help people, I think first is if you win the money. Aren't you amazed at how many people that win the lottery, they've lost it within a very short amount of time because they don't understand the value of a dollar or euro or a kroner. They don't understand the value of it, and that it doesn't last as long as they think it will. I always think that it would be nice for the lottery people to help people learn how to save part of their money, have fun with some of it, but save it for the future as well. And I think that would be the first. You can't take it with you, but at the same time, it sure would be nice to be able to invest it and to be able to make it last through your lifetime. So
Yes.
yes.
They don't know it until it's too late.
I know it, right? I was just reading, we were reading an article the other day about a couple that had won the lottery and they started a foundation. The family that was husband and wife, then they started a foundation. The man that they hired to manage the money took off with all of it and stole it. And the foundation was completely created in order to help other people. And he took off with all of their money and they have no way to find the man. So sad story about the lottery, but I know there's a lot of those top stories out there.
Yes. So sad.
Yes, it is.
But eventually, justice will prevail.
Exactly. They have to look at themselves in the mirror each day. Well, I always say people that do things like that really don't usually have a conscience. We think that we think they'll feel bad eventually, but I'm not sure that that's always the case.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that is all we have for this episode. It was great having you on, Lezlee, talking about your uncle being a songwriter and being an expert witness at some point and so
Yes.
many other things. It's been great.
Well, thank you for having me on. I think I had several topics. I'm not sure I picked my favorite there, but they're all my favorites. So I appreciate you having me on and hope to speak with you again soon.
Me too.
Yes, thank
And until next time, stay tuned for more.